This happened to me about 5 years ago. I still have the park receipt and the ranger's name written on it, which is the only reason people believe me when I say this actually happened. My brother and I took an RV trip through a remote national forest. We wanted somewhere quiet, so we picked a small campground that only had about 8 sites. When we pulled in around sunset, the place was completely empty. No tents, no cars, nothing. We didn't think much of it at first. It was a weekday, so figured people just weren't camping. About 10 minutes after we parked, an old Green Ranger truck drove slowly into the campground. The ranger who stepped out looked older, maybe in his 60s. He seemed nice enough, but looked strangely nervous when he saw our RV. He walked over and asked, "You boys planning on staying the night?" We told him, "Yeah." He paused for a moment and then said something that still gives me the chills. "You might want to move to the lower campground." My brother asked why. The ranger hesitated, like he was trying to decide how much to say. Then he just shrugged and said, "Just trust me." But we had already set up everything, and the lower campground was another 20 minutes down a dirt road. We told him we'd probably stay where we were. He looked around the trees for a second before saying one last thing. "If you hear knocking tonight, don't open the door." Then he got in his truck and drove away. Of course, we laughed about it. We figured he was just messing with us. We made dinner, watched a movie in the RV, and went to sleep around midnight. Everything was normal until 2:40 a.m. That's when the knocking started. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow taps on the RV door. My brother woke up first. "Did you hear that?" Before I could answer, knock, knock, knock. The exact same pattern. Slow, calm, like someone politely asking to come inside. My brother whispered, "Maybe it's that ranger." But something about the knocks felt wrong. They were too perfect. Same rhythm every time. Then a voice from the outside. Quiet. "Hello." It sounded like a man, but the voice felt strange, like someone trying too hard to sound normal. My brother slowly stood up and started walking toward the door. Right as he reached for the handle, I remember what the ranger said. "Don't open the door." So I grabbed his arm and shook my head. We both stood there silently, waiting. Then the knocking happened again, but this time it came from the side of the RV. Knock, knock, knock. The same exact rhythm. We looked at each other. The door on the front of the RV. But the knocking was now on the metal wall beside us. Then it moved again, this time to the back of the RV. Knock, knock, knock. Same pattern, same calm tapping, like something was walking around the RV, knocking as it went. Then the voice came back, but this time it was different, lower, closer, right outside the window. "Let me in." My brother slowly lifted the curtain just a little to look outside. He dropped it immediately. I whispered, "What is it?" He shook his head. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. "That's not the ranger." We stayed completely silent for almost an hour while the knocking moved around the RV. Front, side, back, roof, always the same 3 knocks. Eventually it stopped. The rest of the night was completely quiet. At sunrise, we packed everything up as fast as possible. Before leaving, we checked around the RV expecting footprints, but the ground was soft dirt. There should have been tracks everywhere. There were none, not a single one. On the way out of the forest, we passed the ranger station. We stopped and told the ranger on duty about what happened. He listened quietly the whole time. Then he asked a strange question. "Did it knock 3 times?" When we said yes, his face changed. He nodded slowly and said, "Yeah, that's why nobody camps up there anymore." We asked him what it was. He just shook his head and said, "Whatever it is, it likes it when people open the door." And then he told us something that made my skin crawl. 2 years earlier, a camper had disappeared from that exact campground. The last thing the people in the site next to him reported hearing that night was 3 knocks on his RV door. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed tonight's story. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on the next scary story.